So I've been on the air here for 16 years, which kind of blows me away. I started across the hallway with our sister station, QLZ, a rock station, knowing that I wanted to be in talk radio. And somehow they let me get on talk radio and do a show, and that was Saturday Session. Some of you might actually have been listeners all the way back then. But things progressed. My career advanced more and more. Got my degree in communication, worked towards a master's in communication and political studies, and then pieces just started falling into place, and I become essentially a talk radio journalist where I cover what's going on at the Illinois State House and bring it to you here each and every weekday morning. But in that time, I've also kept pretty close tabs on what's going on with Springfield city government. Even though I'm not a resident of Springfield, I live in South Sangamon County, in a village, but I spend a lot of time in Springfield. I spend a lot of tax dollars in Springfield. And each and every Wednesday, we bring you the Council Roundup here on WMAY, a review of what happens at the Springfield City Council meeting. And I've been doing that, I think for 13 years now. And we won an award the first 2 years that we were doing it. And then I was done winning awards. I'm like, okay, let's just do the work. I don't need to be awarded with accolades, except for if you want to call me and share your praise. That's fine. 217-629-7970. But in that time I was monitoring the city council, I've seen several administrations, one being former administration Mayor Mike Houston. And if you remember all of the Shredgate stuff that happened, and Houston had to, weather that storm with police files being destroyed and all the questions around that. That was a big saga back in 2012, if you recall. It's unbelievable to think that was 10 years ago. But regardless, Mayor Houston, who had served as mayor before back in the 80s, came back in, the 2010s or so and ran and got the office. But then that controversy erupted and voters decided to go a different direction after Mayor Houston's term in office. And that was when Mayor Jim Langfelder came about. And Langfelder has a history as well with his father, Ozzie Langfelder, being mayor of Springfield back in the day as well. So some interesting history here. So I got to see Mayor Houston for the first time in a while yesterday when I went to a campaign announcement for the incumbent mayor, Jim Langfelder. Got the news event release, was like, okay, I'm going to go check this out. Then I see Mayor Houston come in. I'm like, what are you doing here? Well, he was there to make an endorsement of Jim Langfelder, and this is how that played out yesterday at Langfelder's campaign office in Springfield, and here's Mayor Mike Houston.
For those of you that may not be familiar with my background, I served as mayor of Springfield from 1979 to 1987 and from 2011 to 2015. Buddy Cap is the only Springfield mayor who has served as mayor longer than I did. And he served 4 consecutive terms from 1931 to 1947. Because I held public office, people look at me and they say, I'm a politician. Well, I've always considered myself to be a professional manager. And if you look at my background, basically it is in banking. Except for my time in city government, if you look at my education, my background, my experience, it has been in the private sector, primarily in banking. And prior to going into office the last time, I was the chairman, president, and CEO of Town and Country Bank. Now, one of the things that I've learned over my career is that there is no substitute for experience. And if there is one position where that is absolutely true, that is the mayor of Springfield. City government operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whoever is elected mayor is responsible for the public safety strategy for the police and fire. The mayor will need to balance budgets, encourage investments, strengthen neighborhoods, and improve and maintain our streets and sewer.
So again, that's former Mayor Mike Houston making his endorsement of the incumbent Mayor Jim Langfelder. Langfelder faces current Treasurer Misty Buscher, who's challenging Langfelder in a two-way race, and that election is April 4th for the city of Springfield. So it was interesting to see Mayor Houston there, and one question I did ask is something I hear a lot of from different administrations and alder people under those administrations, and that is a lack of communication. Too often, it seems, and we saw some of this last city council meeting, and it seems to be a persistent issue regardless of who the mayor is. There's not that open of communication, at least according to some alder people who feel like they get blindsided by news stories instead of being told up front that something's coming down the pike. And the Mayor Houston and Mayor Langfelder both said, listen, it's a two-way street, right? I mean, they never declined to take phone calls from alder people, and they have to reach out to the mayor and have these conversations, just as that more can be done by the mayor reaching out to alder people and having conversations. So, you know, it's an interesting dynamic when it comes to how all that plays out. And, of course, there's sometimes politics involved, right? But we saw this a little bit with the issue of the Wyndham City Centre and the debts that they owed for past due utilities. And I asked about this yesterday with Mayor Jim Langfelder there, taking questions after getting that endorsement from Mayor Mike Houston. And again, just a background, if you missed the council roundup on Wednesday, alder people were raising concern about a debt that was essentially waived by the Langfelder administration without alder people having a say in it, an official out in front vote on whether or not to forgive $250,000 in that fee that the Wyndham City Centre owed. So I asked Mayor Langfelder, shouldn't aldermen have had a vote on that? And here's some of what Mayor Langfelder had to say yesterday.
Well, it's $1.2 million that we collected, and you'll have to listen to the audio. I'm not going to second guess, or everybody's going to hyperbolize what happened. And I think I haven't listened to the audio. I just have a good memory of what transpired.
About an executive session.
It's being reaffirmed when I think there's 4 council members that listened to the audio for various reasons. But it was clarified that everybody was on the same page. The Wyndham was on the brink of bankruptcy, closing the doors, so they were going to shut down, and we were trying to keep it open as a hotel. So this is before David Mitchell came into the picture. So David Mitchell comes into the picture, and he's trying to sell the property. And what's the discussion all about? I mean, you participate in this sometimes painstakingly, hours and hours of discussion, as about keeping hotel rooms. And that's why that project went south. So we can second guess, or they can, people can second guess all they want. Bottom line is the Wyndham or the owner paid for all the utilities, paid for the electric usage, water usage. What we waived was the meter charge. They have it's an antiquated system. They have 12 meters or a dozen meters in the hotel, and you get charged for each one. So that's an add-on fee by the utility. Same with the infrastructure. It's called a demand charge, where we build out the infrastructure, and it's an ongoing monthly charge that they charge. That was the other point we waived with regards to that. What we felt, one, we wanted to make sure we got the payment and definitely paid for our utility usage, because that's true costs that were out, and that's what we collected.
Well, I think the question was, why shouldn't there have been an alderman vote?
Well, I think you have to ask Corporation Counsel. He has explained it to me, so he should explain it to you. There's situations where they do, from time to time, work out payment arrangements, things of this nature, and that's one of those times that it was worked out. But good follow-up.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Greg didn't do it.
That's how it works. Is I asked the initial question, why shouldn't aldermen have had a vote in this? And the mayor gave that long answer, and then one of my colleagues from a different media outlet reiterated the question. But I think the question was, why shouldn't alder people have a chance to vote on this? So interesting to hear that. But that's going to be an ongoing issue because, of course, we're going to get the executive session tapes he was referring to released at some point to hear exactly what the conversation was like behind closed doors for that executive closed door session. So interesting to see that. Again, Mayor Houston endorsing Mayor Langfelder over Misty Buscher, saying that it's all about experience, but you also have the ongoing controversy of $250,000 being forgiven for the Wyndham City Centre being addressed yesterday as well.